What's going on, y'all? Kanto Clark here. If you don't know me, we usually do competitive VGC content on this channel. However, today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. So we're sitting here in my album box while we just get ready to kind of start talking about it. You may be thinking like this Wigglytuff here. What's going on? What are we talking about? But we are actually going to be talking about accessibility in competitive Pokemon. Now, the idea of accessibility has kind of just come up in Twitter VGC's talking realm, I guess we might say, after Worlds. And if you follow along with VGC, you probably know that Worlds, the biggest tournament in Pokemon every year, just recently happened where, all the best players get together, they fight against each other. And it's a really big tournament, and we get to see some of the best play that we're blessed to get to see, right? But what happened was a little bit of drama unfolded at the Worlds, and we can kind of just wrap up what happened pretty succinctly by saying that there was some disconnects in top 16 where because basically the internet disconnected at some point during the top 16, the players who were still playing had to finish their round in a sudden death kind of scenario, which is a little bit unfair because it throws away the progress of the previous two matches, assuming that it was coming down to a best of 3 at that point. And so the player who, was perhaps won game 1 and was in a really good position to win game 2, or, was in a good position to win game 3 or whatever, they had to replay it, and there was a possibility that that player, could have lost the sudden death. And then even though they might have been in the position to actually just win without a disconnect, they kind of have to deal with that. So there was a little bit of talk about that being unfair, but that's not actually going to be our main discussion, because there was another thing that happened besides those top 16 disconnects, which I think garnered a little bit more controversy, right? And that was some would like to call it random, but not so random hack checks that happened. So I think it was a little bit predictable, in my opinion, but there was a hack check that happened either at the end of or partway through day 1 of Worlds, and I mean probably in day 2 as well, right? And players who did not have a Pokemon home tracker on their Pokemon got flagged as being genned because, those Pokemon were genned, right? Not this good boy. I caught this one. But with that being said, there was definitely still a lot of shiny Pokemon that still made it through, and or not shiny Pokemon, sorry, hacked Pokemon. And so while I'm not going to be bringing up the tweets for us to look at right now, there did actually end up being, a hacked Pokemon on Shohei Kimura's number 1, World's winning team, with his Amoonguss having a IV manipulation to change the attack from 18 to 0. And someone else also brought up, or it was probably the same person, Kafadix, but bringing up that TSL Tang's team also had some hacked Pokemon, which is the team that ended up knocking Wolfie out of Worlds. I'm not a here or there person, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it was Wolfie, that's so unfair. Either way, TSL Tang played well enough, and it's really that's the difference, right? But it does bring up, in part, the idea of accessibility, where people are kind of just wanting to note the fact that when you can gen, it gives you more time to, prep and just be good at your gameplay instead of having to try to grind the resources, right? So it does put players at a bit of a disadvantage if they are having to spend their time trying to grind for their legal Pokemon instead of being someone who just, clicks a button, gets their Pokemon, and then just plays with it, right? But in the end of the day, that doesn't really bridge the gap of the whole discussion, right? Because there really is like a skill aspect to it, right? And what the real crux of it is, right, is like, does that extra amount of time make up for the skill difference, right? And the real answer is no, right? Like, some players are actually just better. Some players are just really good. And while that extra time does make a bit of a difference, it's definitely not the whole difference, right? So like there's no matter what, there is going to be warranted viability on both sides of the discussion, but that's kind of the point of what I'm talking about right now, right? So moving on to the actual discussion of the video, while we just kind of keep scrolling through random things for a few more minutes, right? Or maybe not minutes, I don't know how long it's going to take, but the basic point is accessibility, right? Like, is there a discussion that needs to be brought up in this game about some players getting away with being able to just get Pokemon on a whim, whereas the other players who are trying to play quote-unquote fairly, have to at times pay a lot of money just to have access to all those resources. Because if you do actually do a breakdown of it, which some people have started to do, it does actually cost quite a bit of money to now have access to every Pokemon that's legal in this game if you are building your own teams and not just renting from other people, which if you're competing at a tournament, you actually do need your own Pokemon, right? Like, you literally have to have your own Pokemon in your game to use them. And if you don't, then that's not, you just can't compete, right? So in order to have Pokemon like Enamorus, Thundurus, Landorus, Urshifu, things like that, you have to have Sword and Shield, you have to have the Sword and Shield DLC, you have to have Legends Arceus, you have to have this game, and it does add up, right? So there is a question of accessibility with playing this game, right? And for some players to be able to just plop the Pokemon into their game, it's a difference, right? But I'm assuming a lot of those players actually do have all the games, and they're just kind of being lazy, right? But either way, we've already kind of fleshed out the whole side of that discussion, right? My point is, what if we made a new 100% accessible game? You know what I mean? What if we moved on to a new competitive Pokemon game that, while not being a mainline game, they could still make mainline games. There's nobody saying they can't still make mainline Pokemon games and have competitive formats in them, and we would have a lot of fun. But, we're starting to see fun games like Pokemon Colosseum re-entering the realm of the Switch, mostly as, retro games for us to play, right? But when I look at games like this, I see a lot of potential for a remake that could be a 100% accessible Pokemon game that kind of takes down a lot of the barriers that make building a team a little cumbersome or time consuming, right? In the sense of having to IV train, EV train, and constantly get new Pokemon, get new Terra types, use resources. I've actually heard somebody on Twitter say that they would pay microtransactions for Terra Shards. Please do not suggest things like that to the Pokemon Company. Please do not try to tell them that we would be okay with microtransactions in the mainline games for things like Terra Shards. That would ruin the game. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it, because the way that they would build the game would change. And they would try to take advantage of something like that. You know what I mean? So please do not suggest something like that. But moving on. You know, the real barrier to building competitive teams at times is that you have to catch a new Pokemon to get the new IVs. You have to retrain for new EVs. You have to retrain for the new Terra type. You have to retrain for the new moves, and try to catch a shiny Pokemon and all those things, right? And to some people, that's what makes the game fun. To some people, that's what makes the game too time-consuming because they have other things going on in their lives or whatever, you know, right? But when you look at a game like Pokemon Colosseum, it kind of has all the right tools in place to be able to accommodate something like a competitive Pokemon game that maybe through playing through the game, you gain the ability to do things like EV train, IV train. And I know that some of the high-level competitive players who don't want to waste their time because they just want to gen blah blah blah, like I don't want to have to play through the game, like I kind of look down on that sort of stance a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, like I think, like, if you don't even want to play through the game, my guy, like, come on. I don't know, but you know, to each their own, right? Like, I'm not somebody who's literally just in this for the competitive and like nothing else, right? Like, I love Pokemon. I love Pokemon as a game, and I thoroughly enjoy it, right? But the point is that while you could implement things like EV training and IV training into a game like this by playing through certain aspects of the game, you know, maybe there's going to be players who can complain about that because, oh, then I still have to use my time to play through it, blah, blah, blah. But it would create such an accessible game, and I think it's ultimately what a lot of players really want, which is a sort of showdown type of game, right? Like, a lot of players just want to be able to pick their Pokemon, pick their IVs, pick their moves, and then play, right? And that's kind of the whole debate on accessibility, right? And so I just, after laying that out, you know, I took a couple notes on things that we could maybe do with a game like this to, you know, make it into a game that you could actually play. And, you know, we could also host Pokemon competitive tournaments with it. What if they brought our casters in to be a part of the game? You know, I'm sure people like, you know, Joe and Rosemary and Scott and everyone else would have a blast coming and doing some voice acting for one of these games. Although, of course, if we were playing in a real live tournament, they would probably turn off the in-game commentation and do real live commentation, right? But it's something to think about. Anyways, let's talk about ways that they could change this game or put things into the game in order for you to play through it and to unlock different features that would go to playing a competitive Pokemon game. So, you know, we have a lot of different areas in one of these games. If you've never played Pokemon Colosseum, it's kind of like, you know, they just give you little hubs to do different things, right? Like, go to the Pokemon Lab, look at your Pokemon, look at your Pokedex, organize items, trade Pokemon. The stadium is where battles are held. You have a place where the mini games are. We used to love our mini games, right? They were kind of like playing Mario Party, right? You have the Gym Leader Castle, You have your room, you have the GB Tower with connectability to the old games, the Pokemon Academy, where you learn how to battle, and then you have the free battle area. So, there's a lot of different, sections that could be used for different aspects of unlocking things in the game, or, doing certain aspects of things, whether it's directly related to playing competitive or not, right? So, in a place like the Pokemon Academy, you could, have the option of teaching players who actually don't really know that much about the game certain things, like super effective moves, understanding power balance in the game, how much should you expect a 20 base power move to do compared to a 80 power move, things like that, right? And the type matchup. So you could also do that here, but you could also go through some sort of things that allow you to unlock EV training, allow you to unlock, I would call it IV training, but you're not really training for IVs, right? You're usually looking for Pokemon that have IVs, so we'll call it learning to search for IVs, EV training, nature training, and I guess you could maybe say move teaching, but I don't know, I would assume more that it would make more sense to, when you unlock the ability to use certain Pokemon, you can just choose their moves, right? So unless it's either that, or you can use specific Pokemon to play through mini games to unlock moves with them, right? I don't really know if implementing TMs into the game would make sense unless they were infinite use TMs. You've unlocked Ice Beam, you've unlocked this, and then the Pokemon just having their access to their other roster moves in general, right? So I think the Pokemon Academy could be used as somewhere to unlock EV training when you get far enough into the game, somewhere to unlock choosing specific IVs on your Pokemon, choosing specific natures. I think EV training would actually be something that you should kind of unlock by beating the game, right? So when you beat the game by, let's say, beating all of the Elite Four, I think unlocking EV training would be cool to do that way. But going on to something else, we have something like the Gym Leader Castle, which I think the Gym Leader Castle could be used in a very straightforward way, right? The Gym Leader Castle could be kind of the place where you unlock new Pokemon. So let's say you're in the Gym Leader Castle and this is the second game, right? So in this case, we start off battling the first gym leader in Johto, which is Faulkner. But in the new game, let's say that you could choose to go the Kanto route, and by beating, Brock, you unlock X amount of Pokemon. By beating Misty, you unlock X amount of Pokemon, up until you beat all of them and you've almost unlocked the full Kanto Dex, right? And then by going through the Elite Four, maybe you unlock the rest of it, like the Legendaries, or Dragonite, Kabutops, Zapdos, things like that, And so I think the Gym Leader Castle could be the place that is used to unlock the ability to use new Pokemon. And, it's a fun in-game thing to do, right? So going on to the Battle Stadium. The Battle Stadium in this game kind of just features things like Little Cup, Poke Cup, the Prime Cup, which is kind of like 1 to 100, right? And then Challenge Cup is they give you a random team. But I think that the Pokemon Stadium in a new version, I guess I'm pretty much talking about I'm making a new stadium game. right? Like, we're not talking about like updating one, we're talking about like actually making a new one that would serve as an accessible competitive Pokemon game that's not exactly like a mainline game, but you know, is like the mainline competitive VGC game in a kind of showdown type of way, but also with like story mode type of things to play to unlock all of the things that you would actually use in the game, right? So it's accessible in the sense that you get everything just by playing through the game, and then once you've played through the game, like once you've unlocked EV training, you can just do EV training. Once you've unlocked IV training, you can just choose IVs. Like once you've unlocked natures, you can just use natures, right? And so you don't have to like waste all the time doing the resource using to EV train, Terra train, whatever. It's just that once you unlock that feature of the game by playing through it enough, you can just do it, right? And so it's a lot less time consuming in that way, right? But I think that while, you know, this is a really good way to use the stadium, and we could definitely keep these, we could expand it, right? Like we could say not just Little Cup, Poke Cup, Prime Cup, whatever. We could use parts of the stadium to unlock Mega Battles, to unlock Terra Battles, Gigantamax Battles, to do singles, doubles, triples, rotation battles. You could unlock Legends formats, Mythicals formats. I mean, we could probably find a way to introduce things like a top 10 restricted format as well, right? But by playing through these different aspects of the stadium, you could maybe unlock different types of battles, right? Like when you're on Showdown, you can choose, I want to play Megas OU, I want to play Terra OU, Gen 8 OU with Gigantamax, you know what I mean? And by playing through different parts of the stadium, you know, you could maybe unlock that, right? And then in that sense, you know, not only do you have the ability to play one format, but if we wanted to do a online ladder, you could have simultaneous online ladders going all the time, where you could log in to the ranked system in this game, and you could say, well, I want to play Megas right now, I want to play Terras, and, you know, you could build your teams accordingly to that, and, you know, have your own ranks for whatever. And I mean, obviously the game would have to choose the predominant format that we're currently playing in, right? Which we probably wouldn't go back, you know, we would continue going forward with something that matches the mainline game that we're playing right now, right? But you know, having access to those different formats would still be fun, right? So that's cool. That's cool. Minigames, you know, bring back minigames. We love minigames. We like playing minigames. It's a fun extra aspect of the game. You can play them with your friends. You could even make a competitive out of it. But, you know, I don't really have that much to say about minigames. I'm just saying, like, bring it back. Why not? You know, we like it. We like the stonks. And I mean, like I was saying earlier, you could technically also use it as somewhere to unlock moves. I don't know. Maybe you could use it as somewhere where you say, I want to use Rattata in my minigame. And then by getting Rattata to Master Tier in minigames, you unlock, I can use every move with Rattata. Or Pidgeot. You know, Pidgeot's a good Pokemon. Nidoking. Squirrel. Squirrel's a Pokemon, right? No. Oh, God. But you guys get it, you know, like Heatran, actual competitive Pokemon. We have fun here. Minigames are fun. Pokemon Lab, right? Could be a place literally just like it says here, a place to just look at the Dex info. Some people like learning about Pokemon lore. You could look at the Dex info. You could unlock Dex info from different games, right? What if I want to look at the Dex info from Gen 1? What if I want to look at the Dex info from Gen 5? 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, there's other things you could do here, right? Which it basically points out, like, you could organize your items, trade Pokemon, So this could be used as the trade hub in the game, right? It could also be used as the place where you put your teams together and, you know, choose what items and IVs and EVs they have. It can be your lab for building your teams, you know what I'm saying? But we also have our room. You could use your room to do things like change your looks, check your records in the game or your achievements, check your progress. You know, there could be like a progress book. And maybe you could also look at what you still have to unlock, right? Like maybe it could tell you you have to do this to unlock EV training, this to unlock IV training. So it could like keep a record book as well, right? The Game Boy Tower, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, it could be like a place to unlock extra features from connecting to or having other games, right? Like if you can show that you have saved file from Sword and Shield, you unlock a new mini game, or you unlock, I don't know, you know what I mean? I put some suggestions to myself somewhere. Unlocking extra features for games, extra mini games, or things like Pokemon Dream, the Underground, the Grand Plaza, etc. See, that's a lot better than me just going, I think I said something to myself. But yeah, very good points past me, you know? Like, if you connected to if you connected to Diamond and Pearl, maybe, you know, you could unlock the Underground, or if you connected to Sword and Shield, you could unlock something, you know? All sorts of good fun. And the last thing to talk about, right, is just the free battles, right, where you could, you know, just kind of practice for random. You could maybe challenge your friends to a link battle in a not serious ranked way. You could do the non-ranked battles, you know. So there's a lot of things you could just do at the free battle section. But that being said, you know, I think we've rambled enough. The one thing I did want to show you guys is that we have, in fact, actually had worlds in this game before. Footage from Siege or DS. We have had a time where we actually played worlds in 2009 on Pokemon Colosseum. Yeah, so it wasn't on Pokemon Stadium, it was on Pokemon Colosseum. Or I might be mixing up the names of them. You guys get it. You guys get what I'm saying. There's the GameCube one, there's this one. They have similar names. Pokemon Colosseum is the GameCube one. So Worlds in 2009, which I'll show you guys again, was actually played in Pokemon Colosseum on the GameCube. But Pokemon Stadium is also a, you know, great game, which if we were to redo it in some way or another, make a new updated generation version of it, you know, we could do something really cool like all that stuff I just mentioned. It would help to deal with accessibility a lot in the game by saying, hey, how about instead of having to grind really hard, you just play through the gym leader castle and you unlock the Pokemon that you want to play. You play through, or you do parts of the Pokemon Academy and you unlock IV training, EV training. And then whenever you want to do it, you can just do it now. Now that you've unlocked it, you can do it in a showdown type format where you just choose your Pokemon, choose your stats, choose your moves, you play, you have stonks, right? You talk with your hands. Those are the stonks. Those are the stonks. They don't tell you that in school, but I'm telling you, okay? And don't forget about Pokemon Colosseum, though. Pokemon Colosseum, very good game, and I also plan on making a video about that one in the future. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and let me find my outro. Hey, look, my face is still there. I can't find my face to turn off. I think this is it. No, that's not it. I'll just leave my face. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe. this video is brought to you by Pokemon pendants from my Etsy. So go check out my Etsy if you want a Pokemon pendant. Good for key rings or necklaces.